It's amazing what just changing your perspective a little bit does to your entire outlook.
Welcome back to Happiness in Progress. I'm your host, Danielle Craig. I'm an Emmy Award winner, former journalist, mom, wife, and just a person looking for more joy. This podcast is brought to you by the Mail Tribune. It is all about finding more happiness in all aspects of your life, on the good days, the bad days, and the in-between. Remember, tickets are on sale right now for the Happiness in Progress live event. There will be dinner, a beautiful setting at Roxanne Winery in Southern Oregon, and most importantly, we are going to be digging deep on self-worth issues, perfectionism, expectations, shame, and how to get out of that. You will leave feeling empowered and rejuvenated. The link to tickets is in the show notes, and grab a friend to get the discount. Now, to today's guest, Courtney Paulk. She is a powerhouse in everything she does. In the office, she is the first female president of an 80-lawyer law firm, and in her free time, she is known for her ultra-distance open water swimming feats, and these are incredible. She is one of only 201 people who have completed the Triple Crown of open water swimming, and only the 5th person to do it twice. Courtney blogs about her feats on her blog, Swim Tonic. This is such a fun conversation with Courtney because open swimming is so fascinating. She talks a lot about what it's like to swim for 33 hours straight in cold water without a wetsuit, and everything that goes into that. We talk about the mental game, dealing with disappointments, how gratitude even works when you're swimming in cold water for hours, and the hilarious hallucinations. The conversation bounces back and forth between her work as a lawyer and as a swimmer because so much of what she learns about herself in the water plays a role in her fast-paced life. So let's get to it. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I am an open water marathon swimmer, and I was the 85th person to accomplish what's called the Triple Crown of open water swimming, which is swimming a lap around Manhattan, the island of Manhattan, 28 and a half miles. Also swimming the Catalina Channel, which is from the mainland of California to Catalina Island, and then also swimming the English Channel. So I accomplished that the first time in 2013. And then I decided that it wasn't enough and I wanted to go back and do it again. So I decided to start that journey again and do it as doubles. So in other words, do 2 laps around Manhattan, which I did in July of 2017. And then in October of 2017, I did a double Catalina Channel swim. So I swam from the mainland of California to Catalina Island and back. And then I went last year to do a double English Channel swim, and I got from England to France, but the weather turned, and so I wasn't able to swim back. So I'm headed back to England this summer to try that again.
Okay, and then you'll be the only one, is that right? Is that still correct? You'll be the only one who's done this. Is it called the double triple? Or the triple double?
It doesn't really have a name yet,
okay.
Because nobody's done it.
Wow.
There's some people have done 2 Triple Crowns. So there are 5 of us who have done the Triple Crown twice, not necessarily doubles, but 2 singles. And then, so I was the first person to have done 2 of the Triple Crown swims as doubles. There is one other person who has done 2 of now, as we sit here, 2 of the Triple Crown swims as doubles. So unless she gets her double Catalina swim in before I do my double English Channel swim, then yes, I will be the first person.
Wow. Do you feel competitive in trying to get that done first?
It's, I think, I'm not sure anybody had the idea before I did. So not necessarily competitive, but I think just because it was my idea, I would like to do it first,
Mm-hmm.
but the person that has her two of them done as a double, I love her. She's a beautiful Irish woman. And if she got it done before me, I would not necessarily feel competitive, and I would love that she did it. But I want to get it done just for me, really.
Yeah, you have a little bit of ownership on it.
Yeah.
But I love that perspective of being happy for another person, because a lot of people, even myself sometimes, struggle with having that kind of compassion and love and being excited for another person accomplishing what you're trying to do.
Yeah, when she does it, which I'm certain that she will, I will be so happy for her, whether she does it before me or not.
I'm thinking about when I took a cruise ship from California to Catalina and how long of a distance that is.
It's crazy. It's I have a cousin who did that journey as well from California to Catalina, and she said it was the worst boat ride she's ever had, and she was so sick. It can definitely be rough. I actually went in 2016 to try to do a double Catalina swim, and the weather was really bad, and we had, rough seas and bad wind all through the night when it's supposed to settle. And so that's when I got my second Catalina swim before I went back in. Wow. In 2017 and got my double done.
Wow. Okay, we'll come back to the swimming, but as we're talking about this, I want everyone to have the context of what you do for a living as well, because you do this really hardcore, incredible thing on the side of a very, very busy life that you lead, right? Tell me a little bit about your job.
So I am the president of an 85-person law firm in Richmond, Virginia. We are a multi-specialty firm. I got promoted to that position last fall. Before that, I've been with the firm since 2002. I'm a construction lawyer and have a busy construction practice as well, but was the first female president named to my firm since we were founded in 1946.
One of the number one excuses people use in their lives, no matter what it is that they want to accomplish and they just don't accomplish it, is time. So that's really what I want to ask you is, how do you find the time to be able to do this demanding job, be a really high-powered woman, which is incredible, and also do these incredible swims? How do you find the time?
Well, I mean, there's obviously only 24 hours in a day, but I think I do better with my schedule when I'm really busy. If I've got too much idle time, then I put things aside. And so I just have to prioritize, and you really have to prioritize yourself. Because if you're not taking care of yourself and making sure that you're healthy and, fulfilled in your personal life, then you're not going to do as well, at least in my opinion, in your professional life, because you've got the example that I use when I answer similar questions is putting the airplane mask on yourself before you help others. So I feel like I need to help myself and take care of myself before I can help others, and then I do a better job in my job.
Has time ever been an excuse, or have you always been like, I'm getting it done, this is my priority?
Certainly when if I've got something like a trial, I'm in the middle of a trial. I have, for example, a 2-week trial coming up in the end of May, and I'm a little bit concerned about how I'm going to get all of that done because I'm training for my swim in August. And I actually sat down with my husband this weekend and said, how am I going to make this work? And we talked through it, and I think I've sort of figured out how I'm going to do it. But you just have to get up early, and you still have to sleep, and you still have to take care of everything. But I have a really great husband and life partner that helps me with making sure we have groceries in the house and toilet paper and things of that nature.
I just saw on Facebook this morning, this time 2 years ago I ran a marathon, and I remember the year before that I wanted to run a marathon, and I was like, I don't have the time. But it really is making that a priority, planning your schedule accordingly, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And you just have to just schedule it. And, when you've got something on the books, you just do it unless, you're not feeling well or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get to the swimming. Tell me about the swims. What exactly is this? Because this is open water swimming. So define it for me. What does this mean you're doing?
The rules of open water swimming or open water marathon swimming are pretty simple. You have to start on dry land and finish on dry land, or in the case of like a Manhattan swim, start in one place and then pass that same place that you started to make sure it's official. You cannot wear a wetsuit. You can only wear cap, goggles, and bathing suit. I think some people wear earplugs and some people wear nose plugs, but I don't do that. But wetsuits are not allowed. And you can't touch anything. So I can't get on the boat. I can't touch the kayak or hang on to anything for support. I can only touch whatever food is being given to me or liquid or water that's being given to me during the course of my swim. So you start on dry land, finish on dry land, don't touch anything, don't wear a wetsuit.
So this is not something where you can hop out, take a break, eat some food, and keep going. You've got to, if you take a break, it's in the water.
Exactly. Yes. So I stop roughly every 30 minutes to take in some, some food or some water.
Okay. What's the longest swim you've done?
So my double Catalina Catalina Channel swim was 33 hours and 13 minutes.
Oh my goodness. And so you were in the water for all of that and not in a wetsuit.
Exactly. Yes. And it was a long time. I saw 2 sunsets.
Oh my goodness. When you're doing this, what is going through your head?
So it's interesting. I've found over the years, and I think this is part of the reason that I really enjoy doing this sport, is that when I dive in or I'm in the water, I really don't think about much of anything. It's very meditative, and, sometimes you get in a bad place and you've got to talk yourself through it. But for the most part, I can just kind of go peaceful and let my brain go quiet. So it's, different than what I do in my daily life. Obviously, I can't just to sit in my desk and go quiet. But I really don't think about that much.
Being a lawyer and being able to step away from that must be incredible for the mind.
It is. It's because I'm busy. I'm dealing with, administrative things and client matters and going to court. And then I just can go quiet.
Yeah.
When I'm in
you
the
probably
water.
Never stop thinking in your daily life.
Exactly. It's the only place. I've had one time in one of my training swims where some work kind of eked into my brain, and I promptly pushed it aside and said, no. This is my time. This is my time to be, quiet and peaceful.
Wow. Let's talk about the dark places your mind goes, because I think that just in life, it's really easy for the mind to go to a dark place, even when you don't want your mind to go there. So tell me about going there and coming back out.
You obviously get, when you're swimming for 33 hours or 5 hours or 10 hours, you go into I've found myself into some pretty dark places where, you think about giving up, or you think you're really sick to your stomach and you're going to throw up, and those sorts of things that you just have to work through. So the one example I'll share is in my second lap of my double Manhattan Island marathon swim, we had to swim against the current for a really long time on the second lap in the Harlem River. And we were not making any progress. And I kept seeing the same things, progressing next to me very slowly. And I started singing Pharrell Williams' song Happy. Mm-hmm. And that I just changed my perspective just a little bit, just to make me think, okay, I'm happy. I'm out here in this river. I'm getting to do something that, nobody gets to do, swim around Manhattan really ever, but certainly not at 2 a.m. in the morning. And just have to shift your perspective and find a way to talk yourself out of that dark place.
That's really cool that you were able to do that with something pretty simple, just a song.
Yep, just a song.
What have you learned about yourself as you've been doing this?
I would say that, I started doing these swims and doing longer swims to see how far I could push myself. And I always thought that I just really needed to find my limit and how far could I go before I couldn't go any further. And when I finished my Catalina Island swim double in 2017, I've really had pretty much found my limit. I had been hallucinating at the end of the swim for about 9 hours. I knew I was hallucinating, which was good. I didn't really share it with anybody on the boat, but when I got on the boat, I was done. I was spent, and I've been swimming for 33 hours.
Yeah.
But after the swim, in the couple of days after, I was like, well, I wonder if I had fed a little better, or I wonder if I had started at a different time. So I was trying to find a way to push my limit even further. So I don't really think I do it to find my limit. I think I do it because of what I learn about myself along the way, like being able to find a way to talk myself out of a dark place, or push myself a little bit further, or work through whatever I might have going on. And it gives me confidence in my daily life to deal with all sorts of issues. If you've got a difficult judge or something like that, and you're standing up there, it's not nearly as hard as swimming 33 hours.
Wow. That was my next question. How does this seep into your daily life? Are there any other ways that when you're going on the daily grind, a lot of stuff going on, that you take yourself back to the water?
Yeah, always. I would say on almost a daily basis, I say to myself, okay, I've had to overcome swimming all of these hours, or I felt like I couldn't, get myself up for whatever it might be. And I go back to those places and tell myself whatever I need to tell myself in that moment. Because really, nothing is as hard as swimming for 33 hours.
I cannot even wrap my mind around it. I can't wrap my mind around swimming for 33 hours.
I really can't either a lot of the time. I don't know. When I think about it as a rational person sitting, at a desk, I don't know how I did it. I really just don't know how I did it.
Okay, we talked about the mental. What about the physical? If you're not wearing a wetsuit, it must get pretty cold. And 2 a.m.
Yeah. So the English Channel is the coldest of the 3 swims. My Catalina swims have ranged anywhere from low 60s to upper 60s in the water. And then the air temperature as well can get kind of cold. But English Channel, mostly low 60s, with also cooler air temp and wind. So the cold, you have to just acclimate over the years. I've done a lot of acclimation, and every spring I go to, find cold water to jump in. And I gained weight when I started doing the swims to keep, we liked in the marathon swimming world, like to call it bioprene instead of neoprene. So I have a nice little layer of fat that helps keep me warm, which is good. But the worst thing I think about the physical is the salt water in your mouth is horrible. Like my tongue will peel for days and blister, and there's really nothing you can do about it. I put Vaseline on my lips and in the front of my mouth, and I rinse with some sort of mouthwash diluted every 30 minutes. But the salt water is brutal on your mouth.
Wow. What about just the ocean itself? Are there waves? Are you seeing animals? Are there dangers as you're doing this?
It can be flat as a pancake, and then it can turn and be, 4-foot seas. Now, not within the span of a couple of minutes, but over the course of a swim, you can experience a lot of waves, a lot of wind. Wind is really probably the biggest enemy of open water swimmers, because the wind churns up the water, and especially if it's a headwind, you feel like you're swimming against a wall sometimes. But creatures wise, I did swim in 2000, maybe 14 or 15 across Cape Cod Bay, which from Plymouth to Provincetown, which is about 20 miles. And it was there were sharks around. I didn't see any, thankfully, but I used what's called a shark shield in the water, and had 2 kayakers with a shark shield, which is sort of like, it sends this electric pulse out that's supposed to bother the shark's nostrils, for lack of a better word. And so when they hit this field, which is pretty close to you, they supposedly turn and go the other way. So I didn't see any sharks, but there was a shark encounter with 2 kayakers literally right where I started the day after I swam. So
those are just some of the external physical things, but this on top of the fact that you are swimming for 33 hours, your body must be aching. Tell me about it.
So I've had lots of aches and pains over the years, and I think sometimes the longer you swim, you just, if I start hurting at 2 or 3 hours, that's not great. But the longer it goes, the more you just don't even think about it. You just put it out of your mind. And that 33 hours, by the end, I was exhausted, and I felt a lot of pain over the next few days. And I'm sure I felt some pain at the time, but I just didn't think about it. You just put it aside, and you're either going to keep swimming through the pain or you're going to stop. Just have to keep swimming.
Yeah. When you start feeling that pain, when you start feeling tired, if you start feeling like you're hitting a wall, what do you tell yourself?
So I usually try to go to my team on the boat. So there's usually always have a big boat that's with me that has a crew of people on it. And then sometimes you have a kayaker. So depending on whether I have a kayaker or just the boat, I'll go to my team and say, my legs are cramping and I have stuff that I take that helps me get through that. Or I might ask for some Tylenol or some Advil, depending on what I have going on. Or if I'm sick to my stomach, I might ask for some Zofran, which helps calm your stomach down. So I've got all kinds of things that over the years I've figured out help work me through those, the aches and pains, unless it is something that's wrong, where I did tear a tendon in my second Catalina Channel swim in my wrist and had to have surgery. And so I knew there was something wrong. It wasn't just a typical ache and pain. It was the conditions were so rough and my hand was getting smacked back in the waves that I tore a tendon and just on the outside of my wrist that had to get a little fix up.
Oh my goodness. But you kept going.
I did. Yes.
Wow.
Probably not very much. But
Tell me about going through the pain, pushing through the pain. How do you do that?
I sort of call it putting it in the hurt locker. You just have to put it almost outside of yourself. You have to just put it aside and say, yes, it's there, but not focus on it. Because if you focus on it, then you get completely consumed with it. And so I try to think about either try to let my brain go quiet, or that's when I might go to a song or think about, what's going on the boat and feel how grateful I am that all these people have given their time to be out on this boat with me in the middle of the Catalina Channel or the English Channel. And you got to shift your focus to things that lift you up and not focus on the pain.
Mm-hmm. When you're doing this, are you taking in the environment, the atmosphere, the sunsets, the sunrise? Are you taking that in as something to be grateful for, or are you just pushing?
When it's beautiful outside, sometimes it's not. Or if it's dark, there's really nothing to focus on except for there is in the Catalina Channel this beautiful bioluminescence in the water at night. And it's like fireworks coming off of your fingertips every time you put your hand in the water. So that's something that's beautiful. And when I saw the sun go down the first night of my double Catalina swim, it was pretty quick and just a beautiful sunset. And then I watched the moon rise, which nobody ever does. You don't really sit and watch the moon rise. In fact, I didn't even realize there was such a thing as a moonrise, but I literally watched it every time I stopped every 30 minutes to take some nutrition in. I saw that it was making progress and I watched it go across the sky, which was beautiful. Nice, clear night. You're so fortunate to be out there, and you feel completely insignificant when you're this little itty bitty person in this massive ocean with all of this nature around you.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to ask. What are some of the feelings that you experience in the middle of this, seeing just such incredible sights?
That's what you can go to for a positive, but you do feel very small. When your head is just the only thing that's out of the water, if I'm talking to my crew or whatever, you feel very, very small, and you realize how big the world is and how beautiful it is. And there are very few people in the world that can have the privilege to do what I get to do out there. So I'm very grateful for it when I'm out there, or try to be, at least when I'm not in a bad place.
Right. I cannot imagine. So you had trained, you mentioned that the third swim that you needed to do, and that was the English Channel. Is that right?
That's the third one to get my double triple crown. Yes.
And this is when I first heard about you, and the weather came in. It was terrible. You didn't get to do it. Tell me about getting the news that you couldn't get into the water after training, after preparing, and especially this being the final swim you needed to do.
I actually was able to get a window to get in the water. The conditions were very bad leading up to when my swim window is. So when you go to England, you have a window of opportunity to swim, which can range from maybe 4 days to 7 or 8 days, depending on depending on the tide schedule. So I got canceled on my first day that I was supposed to swim. Literally, I got a call at midnight, and we were supposed to be meeting the boat at 2 a.m. And I got a call and said, swim is off. So that was rough. And then the next day we went and met with the boat captain, and he said, I think we can get you out tonight, but I don't know what's going to happen with the weather. And so we decided that it was better to do at least a one way than no way if the weather didn't cooperate. And it did not. It was windy from the very first step off of Shakespeare Beach in England, and it was windy the whole way across, and I got pushed way off course. And I asked my crew maybe an hour and a half before I finished and said, I just need some information from the boat captain to make a decision about whether I'm going to go back. And at the end, we just decided it was not prudent. They were calling for what's called 4.6, maybe 4.7 winds, which is, you just can't swim in that. And he said, the minute it blows over a 4.6, I'm going to pull you. And he said that could be 10 hours from now or 20 hours from now. And it was a rough one way, and I was grateful to get the one way in, but it was very devastating to not be able to make the turn when I've been training for so long. But it's also something that you just know. You just know that that's part of the deal. I have friends who've gone to England and not been able to swim and even get their toe in the water because of the conditions.
Wow.
So it just sort of is what it is, and you have to decide that you're okay with that when you sign up for these swims.
Hearing the information, how did you process it? Yeah, even knowing this could happen, there's got to be a lot of disappointment that comes with that.
Yeah, I threw a little bit of a temper tantrum, I will admit.
That's what I'm imagining myself doing.
Yeah, that was the second time. My first English Channel swim, I threw a bit of a temper tantrum towards the end too, because I was really early in my career and I didn't quite know. I just felt like I should be making more progress. But this was a little different. I really wanted to make that turn, and I was very frustrating. And, but again, I tried to be positive. It's hard to be too disappointed about swimming across the English Channel. And that's what I had many, many friends tell me in the days following that swim is, most people are happy to do a one-way English Channel swim. And I need to remind myself of that. Not everybody gets, lots of people go to England and they don't make it across. More people have climbed Everest than have swum across the English Channel. So
Wow.
Now I've done it twice. It's hard to be too disappointed when you think of it that way. So I just try to turn my perspective around again and focus on the positive.
Yeah. Was that enough for you? Did you have to keep going back to that?
In fact, I still do.
Wow.
I still have to, I'll find myself when I'm talking to people like you and I are talking now and telling the story, I'll start to feel a little bit disappointed and take myself back to that moment. And then I just remind myself, I've swum across the English Channel twice, and I should be very happy about the fact that I was able to do that twice. And I'm going to go back, and hopefully I will have great weather this year, and I will get it done, and I'll get to France, and I'll make the turn and swim back to England. But if I can't, then, I will have done the best that I can do. And that's all I can do. I can't control the weather. You can't control it.
Right. I like that you're a human. I like that you have experienced this disappointment, and even in talking about it, have to go back to, wait, but I am thankful. I love that.
Well, thanks.
First swim compared to the most recent swim, what's the biggest difference in you and how you approach these swims?
Mostly mental. When I jumped in into the water in Boston at 56 degrees, I was consumed by the cold and thought, oh my gosh. And I kept thinking, I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm cold. And you have to not think about that. And I've learned that. Like you jump in the water and you think, oh, it's nice and warm. Even if it's really cold, you can't think about let yourself go down that rabbit hole of thinking about how cold it is. So I would say mostly mental, but I've also learned what things I can take in by way of nutrition that can keep me going without making my stomach upset. Because you're taking in salt water, it's obviously you're rocking with the waves and you're laying face down for a really long time and everything kind of sloshes around in your stomach. So you need to learn what kind of nutrition helps you keep your energy going, but also doesn't make you sick.
Mm-hmm. The practical stuff.
Yeah.
As far as the mental, I think even in life, I've thought about times where I've been really mad about a situation. And if I say I'm mad, I just get more angry. The anger builds and builds and builds. It seems similar. Have you used that same technique of not focusing in the real life?
I would say yes, although it's harder because it's not singular. When you're in the water, there's only so many things that you can have. Either you're feeling sick or you're cold or rarely are you hot. But in life, there are so many things. You're busy or you've got a difficult legal issue that you're dealing with or a difficult lawyer on the other side. And you might have all of those things in one day. So it might be able to work for a couple of things, but sometimes you just have days that are overwhelming. And, I try my best, but we all get overwhelmed.
I want to go back to the hallucinations. I went on a different tangent when you were talking about that, but tell me about these hallucinations. What are they? How do you recognize them as hallucinations?
The first thing that I thought that I saw was a shark, but it was dark. It was probably, I don't know, what was dark outside. And so I couldn't have seen a shark. And I said something to the boat. I said, I think I just saw a shark. And they questioned me and I thought, oh, I must not have seen that. It must have just been a hallucination. So then I had a kayaker next to me and my friend Dan, who's just an amazing kayaker. And in the front of his kayak, I saw a walrus. And of course I was in Catalina Channel where there are no walruses. And he was just sitting there. And I thought, where did this walrus come from? And when I would stop to take my nutrition in, he wasn't there. So I was only seeing him when I was swimming. So I said, okay, this is clearly a hallucination. And then the walrus, I guess my mind tried to rationalize it. The walrus turned into a dog, a black lab,
wow,
who had a name, whose name was Chris. And, I created this whole, I guess, story about Chris, the black lab in the boat. And then I saw a boom lift on the side of Dan's kayak, which clearly wasn't there. And I kept seeing pebbles underneath of me when I was swimming, even though it was dark. And I thought we were going to somebody's house. And my brain clearly started to deteriorate. And I think it was one, nutrition, because I was taking in some nutrition, but probably not as much as I should have. And then just lack of sleep.
Oh my goodness. That's scary. Once you recognized it as a hallucination, were you scared?
No, I was so beat down by then. I think I don't even know that I really had enough cognitive function to be scared. I just recognized it for what it was. I have a friend who was actually one of my official observers on this particular swim who has hallucinated, and he didn't know he was hallucinating. And he thought that the boat was full of pirates and was a pirate ship when he was swimming. And he said, when we talked about it afterwards, he said, I should just be grateful that I recognized that it was hallucinations and that, I knew that there really was not a walrus in the kayak.
What I find so interesting is this, Is it kind of like a debate between your mind, like two parts of your mind?
Absolutely. Totally a debate, because you're swimming and you see it and you stop and you say it's not there. And you think, should it be, where did it go? Like, where did that black lab go that was just on the boat? And so it's definitely a debate, and really a debate as to whether or not you should keep going. And that's why I had enough cognitive ability left to not tell the people on the boat that I was having these hallucinations. And when I did get after I finished and cleared the water line, you have to swim back to the boat. And I really didn't want to swim back to the boat, but I had to. I didn't have a choice. So I got back to the boat, and there's a video of me like collapsing over and saying, "There's a walrus on Dan's kayak," and one of my crew members looking at another crew member, like, "What is happening? What?" And then I saw a bug on the boat, and I told my friend Amy, I said, "You need to kill that bug." And she said, "There's no bug there." And I said, "No, you need to kill the bug. He's right there." And she said, "There's no bug." I said, "Just kill the bug. Just step on the bug."
Oh,
and
my
so
goodness.
She stepped on the bug that wasn't there to pacify me, because I thought there was a bug there. But they realized at that point what was going on.
It's amazing how strong the brain is.
It totally is. Yes. These swims are really much more, they're physical, obviously.
Right.
But there's so much mental to them, and how you get through whatever you're confronted with on the day.
Uh-huh. What would be your advice to someone about how to harness that power without the power of their brain and what they're thinking without having to do the 33-hour swim?
Wow. Just when you're confronted with any situation, whether you're frustrated or just in a bad place, whatever it might be, find a way to go to a place that is a happy place, and put it aside. And it's amazing what just changing your perspective a little bit does to your entire outlook on life, I think.
Perspective is so key. When I was first preparing for our interview, I was really thinking of swimming as a one-man job. Like, this is all you. But it sounds like so many people help you be successful. Can you tell me a little bit about the teamwork that goes into this?
My husband is always on my crew. He has been on every big swim that I've ever done. He's been on my crew. And then depending on the length of the swim and the size of the boat and whether you have a kayaker, I would say typically I've got somewhere from 4 to 6 people with me. And then obviously you have the boat crew, so we usually hire a boat. So it's a boat, and then that comes with a captain and a backup captain, and sometimes a backup to the backup. And then they have, crew on the boat. So it's just the best example I can give is I had in that second Catalina swim that I did, my kayaker got sick because it was really rough. So the kayaker that I had arranged to have was just very ill. And so she went back and took the kayak back and got on the boat. And there I was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the middle of the night, really by myself. And
wow.
The conditions had not laid down like they were predicted to lay down. And it was just bad. It was such a bad swim. And my friend Amy, who has also been with me on a ton of my swims, got in a kayak. She'd never kayaked in the Pacific. She'd never kayaked in the dark. And she got in that kayak and she came out there, which, could have been dangerous. Ended up, she did fine. And when I turned around and saw her coming towards me, I thought, oh my gosh, that's teamwork. That is exactly what teamwork is. Nobody asked her to get in the water. She just said, Courtney shouldn't be out there by herself, and I'm going to go out there and do what I can do to make sure she's safe, and that, that we have good eyes on her, and she's got some company. So it's just, I'm so grateful for all the people that make these swims possible, because we can't do it without them. It's really a team sport. It really is a team sport. It's just different. I'm doing the, swimming, but they're doing everything to support me.
That's very cool. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget the people that are making the dream possible.
Oh yeah. And, even just on a daily basis, my husband does things that, make it possible for me to have this career that I have and to be able to go train. And for example, this weekend, he'll be on the boat when I'm training out in the river. Not such a terrible job when it's a nice sunny day outside and he can drink beer and eat sandwiches and things like that, and which I get a little jealous of, I have to say, when I'm out there training. But it's, he's taking time away from something that he would otherwise be doing to help me. And I'm hugely grateful for that.
Yeah, that's very cool. And this friend, Amy, who came out, I want to go back to her. She's the same one that stepped on the bug that wasn't there, right?
Yes, she is.
That's pretty incredible. That's so awesome. You have your husband and just incredible people surrounding you to help you do these. Why do you keep getting back in the water? What is the number one thing that you're getting back in the water for?
Just to take care of myself. If I didn't have something that I was training for, I think I would let my job become all-consuming, and it gives me balance in my life. My people would probably disagree that I have balance because I do so much of both. I work so much and I swim so much, but it gives me focus and drive. And also, when I dive in the water, whether it's at the pool like I did this morning or, this weekend when I jump into the river, it's that peaceful, meditative quiet that I think probably draws me back more than anything, is that it's a place where I can go where there's no phones, there's no computer, there's no Facebook. It's just me and not even really my thoughts, just me and my peaceful place where I can go and rejuvenate and find my personal balance.
Just be. One of the number one things I was thinking, and this is when I get into the water, I get into my hot tub. But one of the reasons I love it is because my phone doesn't come with me. So when I'm thinking how amazing that would be to be able to be on these really long swims without your phone, just to be disconnected.
And my clients and my colleagues, they all know that, if I say I'm going to be in the pool from, 6 to 8 in the morning, or if I go for a swim at night from, 6 to 8 at night or whatever it might be, they know that that's my time and they can't reach me. And they're okay with that because they know it makes me better at my job and a better friend or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's very cool. One of the other things I wanted to talk to you about is failure. Have you ever felt like you failed on any of these runs or swims and not made it as long as you wanted, or did it in more time? Or I don't know if there's anything like that.
I'm sure there are some people who feel like if they go to the English Channel or they go do one of these swims and they don't finish, that they feel like they failed, but I don't. I feel like if I jump off the boat, that's success to me. If I've done all this training and I've gotten there and I have the courage to jump off a perfectly good boat, for example, in the Pacific Ocean in the middle of the night with, sea lions and whatever else might be out there, that's success to me because I had the courage to get off of that boat and go try to accomplish something that I've set my mind to. And, obviously, like in England last year, I was disappointed when I didn't make the turn, but that doesn't feel like failure to me. It just feels like a blip. And, it's because I got off the boat, and there are lots of people don't get off the couch, much less jump off the boat in the middle of the night.
Yeah. That's incredible. What about the courtroom? Failure in the courtroom?
It's funny. I have clients ask me, what's your success rate in the courtroom? And, you're presented with the facts that you're presented with in any given case. Some facts are better than other facts. And, my job is not to go in and my job is to go in and present the best case that I can with whatever facts that I have. And, I feel like as long as you're putting in the work and making sure your client is given the best, either, defense or position in whatever case it is, that's success too. I've won things that I should have lost. I've lost things that I should have won, but that doesn't really signify success or failure to me. It's just whether or not, when I walk out of the courtroom, whether I feel like I did the best job that I could do for my client on that day.
That's so good. That's something I think everyone can take into their own lives instead of internalizing something as a failure, going back to your effort.
Yeah.
Do you think being a lawyer makes you a better swimmer, or being a swimmer makes you a better lawyer?
I think being a swimmer makes me a better lawyer for sure. I think it just it gives me that place to where I can take care of myself. It's somewhat competitive, not really with other people, but with myself. And I think being a competitive type person, at least in the profession or the type of lawyer that I am, makes you better. It shows that I've got drive. I've got, I'm goal oriented. And so I definitely think being a swimmer makes me a better lawyer. I don't know that being a lawyer makes me a better swimmer. But certainly
I was thinking like the A-type personality.
Definitely
maybe that it takes to be a
A.
lawyer might be really beneficial in this swimming as well.
I was started swimming year round when I was 5. So
Wow.
I've been a swimmer way longer than I've been a lawyer. So maybe swimming, that type A, that drive led me to the law, maybe.
Okay, this is the last question. This podcast is all about happiness, finding joy when things are really hard and things are easy and things are in between. So what would you say is the number one tip to finding joy in the everyday?
Do what you love, for sure, and make sure that if you've chosen either a profession or sport or, working with a nonprofit that you don't like, do something different, because I could be a runner, I could be a swimmer, I could be a triathlete or whatever, but swimming is what makes me happy. If somebody said I had to go run a 5K tomorrow, or 10 weeks from now, I would hate that. And I would hate every minute of it. I hate to run. And my husband is right now trying to figure out, he used to like to cycle, and he's trying to find what makes him happy and what he is motivated to go do. Because if you're not happy or you don't like what you're doing, then what's the point? Then it's just hell.
Right.
You just have to suffer through it. So same thing with your career. If you've gone down a path that that isn't fulfilling, then make another choice. Life is way too short. If you're not, I told a friend a couple of years ago that, he was in a bad marriage. And I said, you have one life, and are you going to be miserable for the rest of your life, or are you going to make a change? And he said it was the best advice that anybody gave him, that, he kept thinking, I have one life and I'm miserable, so I'm going to make a change.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was just the most fun conversation. I loved learning more about open swimming, and I just think it's incredible that you're able to accomplish that. I really just think it's amazing.
Thanks so much for inviting me. It's been a hugely fun conversation.
There is so much from Courtney I appreciate, and I hope you were able to draw parallels from her experience in the water to your own life. I will link her information in the show notes so you can follow her journey. Thanks for being here on Happiness in Progress.